We should start that one. You're not. Yeah. Oh, I think we have a lot over more. What do you want more? Oh, we're good. Thank you. Well, no, I'm gonna get maybe I don't care anymore. My mom is already. Yeah. 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 I think like 2.5.
We're on page, we're on page 235. 235.
And you know it's a long thing. Like you can't see it as a building, but you know that it's not saying.
I see. In the Mishkan, we have the sewing, which was last week. We said it's basically two items that are going to be attached by the third item. When we speak about sewing, it's the thread. When we're speaking about other means of attaching two things, when you have the glue, the tape, you have the stapler. So all of these are also doing that on Shabbos is considered as if you had sewn. That is the melacha of sewing, attaching two things together, which is a melacha. When it comes to gluing, so we said that will have the same rule as tying temporarily. And that was meant to be opened up within 24 hours, and that is not considered attached. So what went into that category is we had the Band-Aid, even though it had the glue. Then we also have the diapers that were also opening up that what we call snap the attachments. So it's not meant to be permanent. So that too could be used on Shabbos, since it's intended to be opened up within the 24 hours. We had a demonstration last week. We had the diaper with the Velcro, so that is not an issue to begin with, just as using Velcro, using zippers, snaps, buttons, all of these do not go into that category. And then we have the safety pin. So it was suggested that one should use it only as to open and close, going, inserting it once through each side of the garment. So in 235, we have the same as when it came to sewing, then we have unsewing. So what is unsewing? That is called tearing. And in the Mishkan, you also had that if there was any hole that made a round hole in the material, so then they would have to make that repair. So how do you repair if something has a hole? So what you do is so we have the garment. Curtain and the hole. How are we going to get rid of this hole? So we're going to make it here, take it out, take out this panel, and then we're going to insert another panel and sew it together. So what we have to do now is remove that item that has the hole. That is called tearing. So that would be the unsewing, and that is Bismillah. So it has its own category, that it is one of the malachas. So we have and it too has the purpose is, now there are two opinions of when it becomes a malacha. One opinion is that only if you're going to resew it, does it become a total prohibition. Others say, and that is the accepted opinion, that whenever you're doing tearing and it is something that is purposeful and it has you want the result, it's not destroying, it is doing something constructive. So in that case, there too, tearing would be a total prohibition. So if someone were to tear, even though they're not going to sew it together, but the fact that they're tearing it and making it into something that is purposeful, useful, that itself also becomes a malacha.
So when would you tear? Would be nothing. There would always be a reason.
No, something you're just doing the destruction. Let's say take a piece of paper.
Okay.
Tearing with now the Rabbanan said this is a Torah prohibition. But what about if you just tear and destroy? That becomes rabbinic. You're not allowed to tear and destroy in all cases. Even if it's not purposeful, the fact that you're just tearing, that itself is rabbinically forbidden. What they just did cannot be done on Shabbos. Even though it's not a total prohibition, it's not one of the 39 categories, but the Rabbanan said no tearing on Shabbos. Unless there's an unless. Okay, so that's what we're going to be learning about unless. What I was hoping for is you have a little handout, which I don't have. I asked that copies should be made. I don't know if they will be done today, so else we will have to work with this lastly. But this is a very so basically it goes into the category of rabbinically. What happens if there's something that you need for Shabbos? Then there would be a leniency. Now you have a bag. In it is, you have a bag that's in it was the challah, and it was sealed. You have no other challah. What do we do on Shabbos? So if we're going to open the bag in its usual fashion, what we're doing is making a bag. Making a bag is something purposeful. You cannot do that on Shabbos. Is there any way of getting to the challah? The answer, someone mentioned it last week. How do we get to the challah? Last week we had that twist tie. We're pulling it and pulling it. And whatever, if we pull, it doesn't go. What could we do? Someone mentioned tear it open. So now we have tearing. But the tearing is going to be such that you're not going to make it something that is, the result is going to be something that is usable. It should be a storage bag. What we're going to do is, we're going to do it in a destructive way. Destructive is rabbinic. Rabbinic say that you need a food, you need something for Shabbos. If there's a leniency that you could destroy this bag. Do I have something to demonstrate? No. So the when I was discussing this with my rabbinic authority, how should I teach this to the class? And he told me, tell them that everything before Shabbos, you should have assigned someone who's going to open up all the bags before all bags and boxes and cans, everything before Shabbos, and don't go into all the leniencies and all of these things. Just say it should be done in the right way, not opening on Shabbos. Everything should be done before. So we have, including this would be a lot of dash bags, we'll have a pretzel, the popcorn, the chips, and all these different things that people would be having on Shabbos. Going beforehand, they would be having a Shabbos Onik Shabbos, to have someone before Shabbos open up all of these bags. And then you're going to do with this, you don't want them to be stale. What do we do not to make them stale? What do we do? We have a lot of things now. You have the zip bags that close up and keeps the things fresh. Or you have when you have these clips that go on when you're opening up the chip bags, twist it over, you put on a clip, and that keeps it closed, so it's fresh. So all of these things can be done before. Now, if not, so again, what we have to be concerned is that we should not make it into a vessel, and secondly, if it has writing on it, not to erase. Erasing the malacha on its own. If we're going to be opening something and it had writing on it, we have to be careful of how we're going to go around the writing, but it should not get into the writing itself. So
What if there's no other way? What if there's writing all over?
that cannot be open in Shabbos. That's the conclusion. You cannot erase letters.
So are you gonna go plan it out, have the color bag and things like that if you didn't open it in advance?
Yeah, we're going to get to it, but I'd like to cover it with this handout. Uh, So let's leave this for next class. I don't think we'll get the handouts now. It's something that goes, situation by situation, one by one. We'll cover it better properly. Let's leave this for the next class where we're going to work with the handout. Let's go to the next. Let's go to the next Morocco. Let's go to the next Morocco on 241. The next one, so this really, the tearing, that concludes the category of making the curtains. So we had the shearing of the wool, and then the cleaning of the wool, and then we had the making of the yarn, making spinning, and then it was woven, and then making the adjustments and sewing panels together and unsewing. So and then tying the strings of the yarn and untying it. These were all a part of making the panels. Then the next series deals with that there was coverings to the Mishkan that was made out of the skin of animals. You had both the skin of the ram that was dyed red, then there was a special animal that's called a tahash. It was a very large animal because it was able to cover the top of the Mishkan, which was 10 cubits by 30 cubits. And it was very colorful. Hashem created this a special creature that was created specifically for its use in the Mishkan. It's called a takash. Some say it was like a unicorn, and it was a one-horned kosher. It was a kosher animal, and so it had to be trapped. So again, the Torah prohibition is capturing an animal that is typically trapped by people by hand or with a net, or that is cornered, placed into a trap, into a corral that's going to be not going to be able to have free movement. That would also include that actually capturing it by net or by people. Then you have chasing an animal to an area where once it's trapped there and you just close the door, it is trapped to not lose its freedom. And this is a total prohibition. Thank you very much. Let's devote it more time. I have the handout, but we'll get it out next week. The Torah would also be assisting and hunting animal, hunting dog to cook animals. These are all Torah prohibition. So in all cases, as with the tachash, the reason why it was trapped is because one wants to use this animal either for its meat, either for its skin, either just to trap the animal because we want to make use of this animal itself. If one would trap a horse because they want to tame the horse, or one would trap a dog, a cat, because they want to confine the dog or cat. I'm not speaking about now about animal that is a pet that goes into its own category, but right now we're speaking about undomesticated animals, animals that are wild. They're trying to trap an animal to have this animal. That would be a total prohibition.
But if you have a horse.
So if you have your own, yes. So if you have the domesticated animal, and let's say you have a pet dog, if you that as your example, and you have guests who are coming to the house, and the dog jumps all around, and the guest would not appreciate being jumped on by a dog. So then you're going to tell the dog to go into the next room, and you're going to lock the door. The dog doesn't get out. So in that case, we did confine the dog into that room. However, the dog went there willingly. It was not being trapped. It was just being told to go to the other room. But that's not considered trapping because it's an animal that is tame, and you're directing it where to go.
Who wants to pick it up?
So that is another issue that we're going to speak about muktzah. What about your pets? Do you carry your pets? Do you pet your pets? What do you do with your animal? Could you walk your dog in a place where there is no arrow? These are all things that we are going to
So, okay, you have to, you have to reshine it, and you have to pull it and put it, put it on that.
So, but it's not rebelling.
No, it's
That's rebelling, so then you calm it down.
Okay.
And you give it, and you give it one of those, doggy dash. And it'll follow you in. So, so rabbinically is restricting an animal from being free. So if it is in close quarters where it is actually trapped, that would be a Torah prohibition, but a rabbinic prohibition would be that they are chasing into an animal, into an area where you still have to retrap it again if you want to confine it completely. In other words, what happens if you chase the, no, this is the page 242, number 3, chasing an animal to an area where the tactics is still necessary to catch them, such as in a large yard. So that would be a rabbinic prohibition. It's not Torah prohibition because the animal is still free. You still have to do another action in order to restrain it. That would be rabbinic. The those items that you don't want, but you are trying to prevent them from freedom, that would be rabbinic. Since you're not going to make use of that, which is being trapped, so that would be rabbinic. The Torah prohibition is trapping something for its use. Rabbinic is trapping something because you don't want it around. So that would be trapping the fly, trapping all the insects. You don't want to, unless you are using the fly for the laboratory, you have to, where you actually want the fly. But other than that, people don't want flies, so they trap them in order to prevent them from being in your vicinity. So that would, an example would be, but let's say you have, there's a screen on the other side of the of this window, and then there's a fly that goes outside of this window, and then I close this window, and I don't, and the screen is closed, the window is closed, and the fly now is trapped between the two screen and the window. That would be rabbinically forbidden. What I should do is open up the screen a little, then close the window. The fly is not trapped because if it wants to, it will fly out. Or I would just leave the window a little open, one of the two, so not to make it completely trapped. Same would be also, you have there's insects in a box, so closing the box completely, that would be rabbinically trapping them because you don't want you don't want the insect, you just don't want it to roam around. So in that case, that would be rabbinically forbidden. Unless you leave it a little open, that even though possibly this insect will not see the opening and not go up, the fact that it does have that ability to have freedom, then that would be permissible. You could set traps before Shabbos. So if this trap was set before Shabbos, then it's not a malacha. It would be the same. In other words, your trap is not obligated to rest on Shabbos, just as the candles are not obligated to rest on Shabbos. Your pot with the food inside is not obligated to rest on Shabbos. So therefore, you could light the candle before Shabbos, even though it will be burning on Shabbos. It's doing a malacha. Your pot that you put on the lech or the crock pot is cooking. And you did that before Shabbos. So the pot is not obligated to keep Shabbos. Same thing is also your trap is not obligated to keep Shabbos. You can set the trap before Shabbos, so then there was no prohibition. It could be done.
So I was reading about the mouse, so you can leave the mouse trap out if you set it for Shabbos.
Yes.
And then the mouse is caught on
So
Shabbos.
it's not a very,
But then,
it's now these will never kill a fly or anything of that sort. You have the Rabbi Rashab once killed a fly inadvertently. He was very upset about it. So, but
can you
again,
remove the trap?
but
Attach
no,
it without-
no, it's muktzah. It's muktzah. What you can do again with your shoe, with your foot, you can sort of push it out of the area outside. Then muktzah would be only handling something with your hand.
And you can't put it outside because that's illegal.
That's right, so if you keep it to, it's a place where into another room, you close the door, you will not be there for Shabbos. That's right.
How, you know, to fly out with a towel. You know.
Yes, no, that's fine, chasing it out is fine. You ever have sometimes a bird flies into the room, ever had that, or a squirrel, that come into the room and you open the window and you can chase it out, it should be, that's fine. Untrapping is permissible. The trapping that is forbidden, untrapping is fine.
But you can trap something that's dangerous, right?
Oh, now, dangerous, that goes into its own category,
Yeah.
that's something that is dangerous, that there is no restrictions. So much so that it's also permissible to kill something if it's a danger of life, it's something that is permissible. You had the ziki flies in Florida. Does anyone remember that? It was transmitting a very, very serious illness. You had the ziki, you had the tsetse fly, that the yellow fever. You have the different insects that are dangerous to a life. In that case, you are permitted to kill them on Shabbos, if that's the only resort that is available to you. Even so, so that would be also an animal that is dangerous. You're allowed also. It's not something that you have to kill, but something that is dangerous. It might hurt someone, seriously hurt someone. Then you could trap it as well. So under those conditions, then the situation changes.
Like specific example, would you consider a bat one of those animals, because bats can be carriers of diseases?
If
Like,
you are
if there's
concerned,
bat side, could you like use a broom to try and shoo it?
yes, you
or
could,
it
and you could
goes
even,
off?
and if you're concerned that it might, transmit a disease, you'll have to trap it.
Okay, thank you.
So until now, we were speaking about those that are not dangerous, it's just annoying.
Going back to like an animal, an animal, if you see an animal that is dying, maybe like.
No, not in Shabbos. That would be at a different category. Taking the light, that has its own category.
But if it's already dying, you'd be putting it out of its misery, no?
Not on Shabbos. Not on Shabbos.
I actually have two specific questions. I actually had two dogs that both died, on childhood.
Oh, on Shabbos,
One, well, I waited and sadly, he died after, I think they died. The other was in so much crazy pain and stress. We actually got in the car for him to sleep because he was looking out. Was it that inappropriate? He was our pet.
yeah, I see, you see what comes, at one point, the animal was not considered a member of the family.
It sounded what?
I'm I'm just thinking about how people related to animals at one point. It was something that was useful. You had a dog that was a watchdog. You had a cat that was there to get rid of the mice. They all served a certain purpose other than companionship. Then it became more like here in people now have a pet. It becomes very, very meaningful to them. When the pet dies, I got questions, could we bury it, to make a ceremony? These are things that people feel very much attached to their animals. This is something that sometimes you take emotions of closeness and instead of transferring it to other members of the family, you transfer it to the dog. I remember during the visitations as a student going to California. So there were the husband and wife, and the husband was complaining that when it comes to his supper, he tells him to go to the freezer and take out a TV dinner. I don't know if anyone knows about TV dinners. It used to be very popular that you had the dinner, you bought it that way through the freezer. And when it comes to the dog, she cooks liver and she cooks all kind of delicacies for the dog. Now, that was the complaint. Now, what's the answer to the complaint? So she was taking what she really should make it as a human closeness she transferred it to animal, which was not, it's not directed at the proper place.
Yeah, but there's also laws like as far as like we're supposed to feed our animals first.
Yes,
Or if we saw like our enemy with a donkey that,
yes,
still take care of that animal,
Yes.
we need that feed.
yes, so Tzar Balachayim, Tzar Balachayim, causing a pain to an animal deliberately just for the purpose of causing pain is a Torah prohibition. The Torah does care about the animals very much so. It's a creation of Hashem. Hashem wants us to take care of it. But then a human has priority. Question would be: are you allowed to load the animal to begin with, and it should pull your wagon? Can you do that? So an animal is not a human. An animal is an animal. Hashem created it also for the purpose of serving the animal. So if the question would be, let's say, when it comes to having where the animal will have to work hard. So again, it could not be undue, but something that the animal could handle. So it's a very one has to be able to use the guidelines of halacha to see what a person could do to consume their animal. Okay, well. So for our next lesson, I guess next one will be will be Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know if it's school. Next Wednesday school. I don't know. Is it school next Wednesday? Okay, so it'll be the week following. Okay, so we'll go back to the boxes and get bags and everything else. We'll have to hand out, and we'll continue with the trappings and how to take care of our pets. Does anyone have pets here? Yes. What do you have?
No.
Okay. So, and
Hey.
we'll try to handle that next week.
Good morning, everybody. I was looking at a message yesterday. I was just asked to just keep track, make a record of the Shabbos. We went upstate, Kingston, New York. It was 50